Hi, welcome back to Millennium Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how to make your very own Greedo helmet. I partnered up with Nico at Nico Industries to bring this file to life and to bring this character to life. So I really hope you like this video. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Alright, so we're at it again. We're going to be putting this helmet together. I have it cut up where I have the mouth separate from the rest of the helmet. We're going to put the ears on. We are going to put all the hair on, and this thing is just going to look absolutely sweet. So I hope you guys are ready for this because it is going to be awesome. Now make sure as you start welding your seams, try to sculpt the line back into the rest of the texture. Take your time at this, don't go too fast. It doesn't have to be super perfect because we're going to be adding texture paints to this helmet to really make it look a lot better. I like to go inside and really melt those lines together as well. So do it on inside, outside, add some extra filament. It's just going to make it a lot stronger than just, relying on glue. Now it's time to glue on the antennas. Same concept, make sure that once your glue has dried, go around where the helmet and the antenna meet and get it on there nice and secure. With plastic welding, or you can add like a bead of glue, and then it's going to come down to the mohawk. The mohawk, it doesn't have to be like a certain way or a certain direction. You can have all of the hairs kind of going all in the same direction or kind of random. I picked kind of a random pattern. I thought it just looked the best. Now this is where the magic happens. I got this new filler primer from my local AutoZone. It's by U-Pull. It dries 3 times faster than any other filler primer that I've used. And when you sand it, it just sands so much more smooth. I didn't have a lot of gumming with the sandpaper, so my sandpaper actually lasted longer when I use this primer, so I highly recommend it. I will drop a link to where you can find this because it is definitely worth it. Now it's time to get into a textured paint. So it's kind of like how I use truck bed liner. You could do just truck bed liner. You could do the Rust-Oleum textured paint, and then also in heavier spots hit it with some truck bed liner. It's totally up to you on this situation, but it just makes it look so much more real when there's texture everywhere. Start to notice as I'm spraying the texture on the face how much more real it's starting to look. The way that texture just lays, it just really just makes it perfect. Once that's dried, it's time to hit it with our base coat. I went with this spring green. It's a gloss, no big deal. We can dull it down later or we can keep it glossy. I wanted to start out with a very bright green, and then we're gonna dull it down with weathering, airbrushing, however you want to go about doing this. Sometimes it's easier to just go from a bright color to a darker color than it is to try to make, starting with a dark base and building up your lights. So however you feel more comfortable doing this, I chose to go this route. So it's time to get into some airbrushing. What I did was the dark crevices and some of the spots that I wanted to be a little bit darker, I went in with a just a Vallejo black airbrush paint. I'm not going to do a whole lot with this, and I'm going to mainly just be outlining harder details to really make it pop once I drop the next color onto it. Time for our next airbrush paint. This color is a blue green, kind of transparent, kind of gotta go over it a few times because it's really thin, but it's really gonna start bringing the color out. So anytime you have a hard green tone, you can always go over it with like a bluish hue of a green, and it really helps just kind of blend those greens together. Alright, now I took some airbrush cleaner and a paper towel. This is a great way to add more, depth within your paint. It'll take the airbrush paint right off completely if you want, because we're on a gloss base. So dab it, or hey, I just went too heavy here, I need to go back. No big deal. I like to look at it as more of the paper towel has a grit to it, so it kind of just gives it more depth in the paint, and it doesn't allow it to be too uniform and randomizes the paint a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to showing this with a matte clear coat. You can do a matte clear coat, you can do a gloss. I ended up finishing this helmet using a gloss clear coat. I did a 1K clear coat, and I just feel like it really made it look a little bit more sweaty, more reptile looking, and I really think it really brought Greedo more to life. But if you like more of matte style, go matte. And now it's time for the eyes. So I designed this honeycomb, cage system that just really brings it to life. So I'm using a spray glue, can't even read what it is. Did it malfunction there for a second. I'm gonna spray it on. And then what I'm gonna do is I stretched like a thicker pantyhose over it, or leggings, as long as it's see-through. Oh, well, I had a little pink come through, so ended up having to redo that one. But then I went over it with this multi-color glitter clear coat over the pantyhose. It really gives it, that nice sparkle, but it's color changing, so at different angles it just looks different. And then what I did was I took some clear Christmas ornament half spheres. So you can get these on Amazon. I'll link those down in the description. I had to trim it because they were just a little too big. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it onto our cage system. And then you can trim it if you want, if you print it a little too big. I did that. After I glued this part, I ended up trimming it. And then what I didn't want to happen is when you put this on, that any of that plastic was gonna like maybe cut into your face. So I rolled the fabric into it just a little bit. And then when we go to do our padding and lining of the inside, we're gonna kind of do the same thing. We're gonna cover it all again with our fleece liner. Now to snap this together, I ended up doing and taking these magnets. These are for like, a leather bag, a purse, and what I did was I melted the male end into the plastic, and then I took the female end and I put it on some elastic. That gets glued to the inside, and then this is going to be our back strap. So the helmet, when the magnets snap from the bottom, it'll just pivot and rotate up. Now when you're doing your lining of any helmet, I have an entire video dedicated to it, so if you want more commentary on that and how I did it. But rule of thumb is start middle and stretch the fabric to one side, then do the other side. And it just makes it so much more smoother on the inside if you start in one point and work one way or the other. then once you get everything glued, it's a great time. We're going to trim these, so that's why it's always best to have a larger fabric than what you need, because it's always easier to take away than to wish and pray you had more. So now to get these eyes in, I'm just going to hot glue them in. So I'm going to go around them, and then when we go to do our liner, we're also going to glue that to the interior of the eye a little bit. So we're going to get even more security of the lens so it doesn't come out. So what I did was I took masking tape and I put it on the inside and I traced out my circles. They're not the greatest trace job, but no big deal. No one's going to ever know because you can actually stretch this fabric a little bit during the gluing process, so it'll look like a perfect circle once we get done. Again, as you start this helmet or any helmet, working the visor is the first thing you want to do. When it's an eye separation like this, start with one eye, then you'll do your center line, do the other eye, and then you'll work center all the way down or all the way up, and then you'll work either center to left or center to right to keep it smooth. once you're at a good happy spot, now I recommend trimming all of this before you do this. Made it a little bit more difficult. I wasn't even thinking. But get your back straps in there, line it up, get it glued down, and then cut your fabric so you have enough where you can cover the elastic bands on the inside before you put your padding in. The reason is you've hot glued the elastic to the 3D print, and by putting that fabric over it, what it does is it just helps secure it in a little bit more. So nothing to worry about. Now we got our top padding in and set, and now we have a finished Greedo helmet. All right, so if you made it through that entire video, you now know how to make your very own Greedo helmet. I want to say thank you so much for watching the video. We're partially monetized now. We're almost to 4,000 watch hours, so thank you for watching. Down in the comments, please tell me the next character you would like to see made here at the workshop. So I guess we'll catch you on the next one.